Good evening. It's Thursday, the 22nd of May, and here's what's making news around the world on World News Tonight. Genocide claims. Trump confronts Ramaphosa in Oval Office clash over white farmer allegations. Launch failure. North Korean warship capsizes during debut as Kim Jong-un blames criminal act. Healing journey. Traumatized rescue dog becomes global sensation as foster mom shares story of recovery.
From Colombo, this is World News Tonight with Amarsha Fernando.
Good evening once again. US President Donald Trump clashed with South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the White House, reviving false claims of white farmer persecutions in South Africa, despite Pretoria's firm denials and calls to focus on trade and cooperation.
A lot of people are very concerned with regard to South Africa.
U.S. President Donald Trump confronted South African President Cyril Ramaphosa at the White House on Wednesday with allegations of mass killings and land seizures from white people.
But we have many people that feel they're being persecuted and they're coming to the United States. So we take from many locations if we feel there's persecution or genocide going on. Generally, they're white farmers and they're fleeing South Africa.
South Africa rejects the allegation that white people are disproportionately targeted by crime.
There is criminality in our country. People who do get killed, unfortunately through criminal activity, are not only white people. Majority of them are black people. And we have now been utilized.
The farmers are not black.
You are raising concerns, and these are concerns that we are willing to talk to you about.
Ramaphosa arrived saying he wanted to discuss trade and critical minerals. The televised Oval Office meeting got off to a cordial start.
What a group of golfers South Africa's had on
Yes.
But then took a turn in a scene reminiscent of Trump's February ambush of Ukraine's Volodymyr Zelensky.
You're gambling with World War III. You're gambling with World War III. Turn the lights down.
On Wednesday, Trump showed a video and held up printed articles purporting to show evidence to back up his unfounded claims that white South Africans are being persecuted.
You can do whatever you want to do.
Ramaphosa said he had not seen the video before and that he would like to find out what the location was. South Africa endured centuries of draconian discrimination against black people during colonialism and apartheid, before becoming a multi-party democracy in 1994 under Nelson Mandela. It rejects Trump's allegations.
I would say if there was Afrikaner farmer genocide, I can bet you these three gentlemen would not be here, including my Minister of Agriculture. He would not be with me.
In recent months, Trump has criticized a new land reform law aimed at redressing the injustices of apartheid. The law allows for expropriations without compensation when in the public interest. For example, if land is lying fallow. No such expropriation has taken place, and any order can be challenged in court. Trump has also criticized South Africa's genocide court case against Israel. Trump has canceled aid, expelled South Africa's ambassador, and offered refuge to white minority Afrikaners based on racial discrimination claims Pretoria says are baseless.
Palestinian President Mahmoud Abbas is in Beirut for a 3-day visit, his first since 2017. He's expected to push for disarmament in refugee camps amidst Lebanese efforts to remove heavy and medium weapons across the country.
In 2024, during an attack on Lebanese Hezbollah, Israel took the opportunity to also take out some Palestinian targets. Here they struck a Fatah commander in Ail al-Hilwa camp, the largest refugee camp in Lebanon, one of 12 in the country, home to at least 250,000 Palestinians, according to UNRWA. Since the first of the camps were founded in 1948, following the creation of the State of Israel and the mass displacement of Palestinians, they have always been a law unto their own, especially in terms of security. So, armed groups, some affiliated to the Palestinian Authority, some not, have had free rein. In 2007, the Lebanese army intervened in the Nahar el-Bared camp against the Palestinian Islamist group Fatah al-Islam. Nearly 2 months of violent fighting destroyed the camp and forced tens of thousands of residents to flee. Since then, conflict has been frequent in other Palestinian camps, like here in Ain al-Hilwa in 2023, between Fatah and other Islamist militants. Weapons have pervaded in these camps since the Lebanese civil war broke out in the 1970s and have been used in recent months to fire in the direction of Israel. Since Lebanese President Joseph Aoun was sworn in January, he has made it a priority to disarm the camps. But if he is to integrate these autonomous enclaves into Lebanon, he will need to fundamentally change the status of these refugees, 80% of whom live below the poverty line, unable to legally work in most professions, and denied the right to own property in the country.
The UN has begun distributing aid in Gaza from 90 trucks, the first since Israel's March blockade. As famine fears grow, Prime Minister Netanyahu signals possible ceasefire talks tied to hostage releases while reaffirming plans to full military control.
As international pressure intensifies against Israel's aid blockade that's left the besieged Gaza Strip on the brink of starvation. Israeli authorities released these images, showing trucks carrying aid on the Israeli side of the border with the enclave. According to the Israeli Prime Minister, plans for private US companies to deliver aid are underway. But he also vowed the Strip, in its entirety, would eventually be under Israeli control.
In order to preserve our freedom of operational action and to allow our best allies to continue supporting us, we must avoid a humanitarian crisis in Gaza. Our forces are seizing more and more territory to clear it of terrorists and Hamas's terror infrastructure. At the end of this process, all areas of Gaza will be under Israeli security control and Hamas will be completely defeated.
His statement comes after key allies Britain, France and Canada threatened a concrete response to Israel's military expansion, describing conditions in Gaza as intolerable. Stating at least 20 hostages are believed to be alive, Netanyahu said Israel would be open to a temporary ceasefire deal.
If there's an option for a temporary ceasefire to free additional hostages, and I emphasize a temporary ceasefire, we'll be ready.
Earlier on Wednesday, Palestinians mourned their loved ones killed by a slew of overnight Israeli strikes. Gaza's Civil Defense Agency said 20 airstrikes hit the area of Khan Yunis and its surroundings, with targets including shelters for displaced Palestinians. Humanitarian groups say that Israel's aid efforts fall far short of what is required to ease the suffering.
Chinese and Dutch foreign ministers held talks in Beijing aimed at bolstering bilateral ties and strengthening China-EU relations. Both sides expressed willingness to cooperate on global challenges with hopes of revitalizing economic recovery and injecting new momentum into international trade cooperation and diplomacy.
Chinese Foreign Minister Wang Yi made the remarks during a meeting with Dutch Foreign Minister Casper Wellkamp in Beijing today. The visit comes at a time when both nations are seeking to reinforce dialogue and collaboration amid ongoing geopolitical and economic challenges. Wellkamp arrived in Chinese capital yesterday for a two-day official visit, marking a renewed effort by the Netherlands and the European Union to engage with China on key global issues. During the talks, Wellkamp said the EU and Netherlands are ready to work with China on addressing shared challenges, including climate change, trade stability and technological development. Earlier this week, on the 19th of May, Chinese foreign ministers said it viewed the Dutch minister's visit as an opportunity to inject new momentum into the development of China-EU relations, according to a Chinese state media. The meeting underscored the importance both sides place on diplomacy and cooperation, with Beijing signaling its interest in fostering stronger ties not only with the Netherlands but with Europe as a whole.
Let's go for a short commercial break. More world news coming right after this. And welcome back. The Trump administration has accepted a $400 million luxury jet from Qatar for use as Air Force One, sparking controversy in Washington over ethics and foreign influence, despite the claims the deal was legal and initiated by the U.S. government.
The U.S. has accepted a luxury Boeing 747 jet gift from Qatar for use as Air Force One. President Donald Trump received a $400 million luxury jet during a recent visit to Qatar and announced plans to use it for future presidential travel. This, however, has sparked controversy in Washington, with critics raising concerns over potential impropriety and foreign influence. Pentagon spokesperson Sean Parnell said in a statement Wednesday that the plane was accepted in accordance with all federal rules and regulations. He added that the Defense Department is working to ensure the aircraft meets the necessary security standards and mission requirement for presidential transport. The U.S. Air Force is expected to begin modifications to the jet so it can be used as an official presidential aircraft. While there are questions surrounding the luxury jet and the ethics of accepting such an expensive gift from a foreign government, Trump has maintained there's nothing improper.
It's not a gift to me, it's a gift to the Department of Defense.
Qatar has also downplayed the backlash, calling it a routine government-to-government transaction.
I see that this story is taking a different direction and is being more politicized, while it's a normal government-to-government deal.
However, CNN reported earlier this week, citing an anonymous source, that it was the Trump administration, not Qatar, that first initiated the deal. Facing an urgent need for a new Air Force One, the administration reportedly approached Qatar to inquire about acquiring a Boeing 747, and Qatar agreed. During his first term, President Trump had placed an order for a new presidential jet from Boeing, but with the delivery still delayed, he has repeatedly voiced frustration over the wait. Meanwhile, the security upgrades are expected to cost over $1 billion, with Boeing aiming to complete delivery of the newly configured presidential jet by 2027.
Two Israeli embassy staffers were fatally shot outside a Washington event in what authorities call a targeted attack. A suspect is in custody after reportedly chanting pro-Palestinian slogans as officials vow action against rising anti-Semitism.
Two Israeli embassy staff were shot dead outside an event at the Capitol Jewish Museum in downtown Washington, D.C. late Wednesday. That's according to officials who said the man and woman who were killed were a young couple. The Israeli Foreign Ministry named the victims as Yaron Lischinski and Sarah Lynn Milgram. Washington Police Chief Pamela Smith said a suspect was in custody.
Prior to the shooting, the suspect was observed pacing back and forth outside of the museum. He approached a group of 4 people, produced a handgun, and opened fire, striking both of our decedents. After the shooting, the suspect then entered the museum and was detained by event security. Once in handcuffs, the suspect identified where he discarded the weapon, and that weapon has been recovered, and he implied that he committed the offense.
Smith identified the suspect as 30-year-old Elias Rodriguez of Chicago. She said he chanted Free Palestine after being taken into custody and that he had no previous contact with police. President Donald Trump condemned the shooting in a message on his Truth Social platform, saying, quote, "These horrible DC killings, based obviously on anti-Semitism, must end now." Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu called the killings heinous and said the world was witnessing, quote, "the terrible price of anti-Semitism and wild incitement against the state of Israel." Deputy FBI Director Don Bongino said the suspect was being interviewed by the police and the FBI.
Cleanup is underway across several states after 13 tornadoes struck yesterday, capping a brutal storm season. The threat continues, with Missouri and Arkansas bracing for more severe weather as communities assess damage and prepare for possible new rounds of storms.
Huge tornado right now.
Fierce tornadoes ripping across the Tennessee Valley overnight, sending debris flying.
It's throwing trees in the air.
And knocking out power for thousands in Alabama and Tennessee.
Oh my gosh, that's a freaking tornado.
13 tornado reports in 4 states last night. Today in Kentucky, cleanup efforts underway. A massive EF4 tornado killed 19 people. And in St. Louis, the head of the city's emergency management agency placed on leave with new procedures in place after a failure to set off sirens over the weekend to alert residents.
Let me be clear, SEMA exists to alert the community when severe weather is coming. This office failed to do that in the most horrific and deadly storm that our city has experienced in my lifetime.
A North Korean warship's launch ended in failure on Wednesday, with the vessel now lying sideways in water. Kim Jong-un condemned the incident as a criminal act, while intelligence agencies monitor ongoing damages and investigation efforts.
A serious accident occurred on Wednesday, May 21, during the launch of a new North Korean warship at Chongjin port, with leader Kim Jong-un in attendance. According to state media outlet KCNA, the vessel lost balance during the launch and ended up lying sideways in the water. Kim reportedly described the incident as a criminal act that could not be tolerated, signaling serious dissatisfaction with those responsible for the failed operation. The mishap reportedly crushed parts of the warship's hull, although further details about the extent of the damage were not provided. South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff confirmed that intelligence agencies from both South Korea and the United States had been closely monitoring preparations at Chongjin port. Lee Sung-jun, a spokesperson for the Joint Chiefs, said that the warship was being launched using a side launch method, a technique not previously observed in North Korean shipbuilding, which appears to have contributed to the failure. Analysts at US-based monitoring group 38 North had noted last week that satellite imagery suggested a side launch was being planned, with the vessel positioned along the quay and flanked by support ships. The failed launch is a rare and embarrassing setback for North Korea's military, especially during a highly publicized event attended by the top leader. North Korea has been expanding its naval capabilities as part of broader efforts to modernize its military, but this incident raises questions about the safety and effectiveness its defense manufacturing. It remains unclear what disciplinary or corrective measures the regime will take in response to what Kim described as an intolerable error.
Time for a short commercial break. More world news right after this. And welcome back. Egyptian officials inspected the Abu Mena archaeological site in Alexandria on Tuesday, assessing restoration efforts after rising groundwater threatened the UNESCO World Heritage Site. The inspection highlighted ongoing preservation work on the protection of the early Christian pilgrimage hub.
Egyptian officials visited the historic Abu Mena archaeological site near Alexandria on Tuesday, May 20, to assess ongoing restoration efforts aimed at saving the UNESCO World Heritage Site from severe groundwater damage. The delegation included UNESCO Cairo Director Nouria Sons, Egypt's Minister of Tourism and Antiquities Sherif Fatih, and Coptic Orthodox Pope Tawadros II. Their inspection comes as authorities continue to combat rising groundwater levels that have threatened the structural integrity of the ancient site for years. Located southwest of Alexandria, Abu Mena was once a major Christian pilgrimage destination, housing an early Christian city built around the tomb of Saint Menas of Alexandria, a martyr who died in AD 296. The site, which was added to the UNESCO World Heritage List in 1979, features remains of churches, basilicas, and other early Christian structures dating back to the 3rd, 4th, and 5th centuries. However, its foundations have suffered significant deterioration due to groundwater seepage from nearby agricultural activity. A dewatering system is currently being used to manage the problem, and further excavation, conservation, and restoration work is planned once the groundwater threat is fully under control. This place carries global spiritual and historical value, Pope Tawadros II said during the visit, noting that the preservation of such monuments is a matter of national and international responsibility. The Egyptian government has pledged to continue its efforts in collaboration with UNESCO to ensure the site's survival and eventual revival as a cultural and religious landmark.
Tiki, a traumatized rescue dog, is capturing hearts worldwide through his foster mom's documentation of his journey. Take a look.
You just being a good boy? In all honesty, there wasn't a whole lot of hope for troubled pup Tiki.
It's day 26 with my extremely fearful shutdown foster dogs.
Tiki landed in the New York City apartment of foster mom Isabel Klee through the ASPCA traumatized.
He is quite literally paralyzed with fear.
The pup was so shaken he wouldn't leave his bed, didn't trust humans, and would sometimes even bite. But Isabel is no stranger to tough cases. She's fostered 25 dogs from some of the worst backgrounds, detailing their recovery on social media. But there's something special about Tiki that took the internet by storm. Millions following every little development, from those first few steps into Isabel's Brooklyn apartment to the first time he accepted food.
I know this might not look like a huge step, but it is.
And a breakthrough on day 13.
Last night, we officially pet Tiki for the first time.
Tiki quite literally making leaps and bounds. Clearly, Tiki still has a long journey ahead, but the love and care provided by Isabel is the head start he never would have had. The heartwarming saga leading a lot of fans to one question. Isabel says Tiki should be ready to adopt in the next few weeks, both an incredible ending and a beautiful new beginning for this foster pup.
And with that, we come to the end of today's edition of World News Tonight. With the hopes of seeing you again, I'm Amasha Fernando, and we leave you with the visuals of stunning images from space. Also, don't forget to send us your feedbacks through email at feedback.ad24english@derana.lk or via WhatsApp at 076-805-7933. Vinith Varnasuriya will be joining you next with the Nightly Business Report. Thank you for watching and have a great night.